Hey everybody, this is Claire, and this is Small Joyful Things. First of all, a little housekeeping. I am sorry that I haven't been posting videos for a couple of months. Unfortunately, I hurt my back quite badly, and I hurt my shoulder, specifically my left shoulder. I am left-handed, and it's made doing a lot of things quite interesting over the last few months. Long story short, it's been much improving. I have the use of my left hand again, more or less, and I'm gonna start 2022 just by getting back into making videos. So I'm really excited to show you some of the stuff that I found. So we're gonna start with something pretty cool. It is this. This is a piece of art pottery. This is a vase. This is a little vase that I bought in a thrift store, obviously, for about $4 if I remember correctly, and basically I picked it up and thought it was absolutely extraordinary, and it had the feel of, like, I picked it up and thought, look, this is something nice, this is something good. Generally, when my brain kicks really hard on looking at something, picking it up and turning it over in my hands, I have to kind of assume that it's kicking for a reason and just trust that my instincts are not wrong. So before we get into it, I'm just going to measure it. It is 6 inches high, and it is, eyeballing here, about 4 inches wide. I'll put that away. You can imagine this is actually very small as a vase. Now, when I picked it up as well, there was essentially gunk stuck inside it, and that took quite a bit of cleaning out. You can see as well here that the glaze itself, it looks very dark, but it is actually very deep blue, deep cobalt, in fact. Absolutely amazing. As well as that, this is all hand-thrown art pottery. These are irises, and you can see the edge of the glaze here. Hopefully it shows up properly in the camera. You can see the edge of the blue, this lovely corona that's coming up. And the irises themselves, these are all individual shades of green, and all of it has been just perfectly done with a remarkable degree of skill. Like, I know just enough about art pottery to know that this kind of stuff is tricky. Now in the back we have another iris. Again, more blades of grass, and you can see that it's all done in just different shades of green. And there's a little bit of an overflow there, a little bit. But otherwise, each of these flower shapes are perfect. And there's also a tiny bit of a design here, but the glaze itself is so thick that you can barely see it. And of course, the base. And as we all know, in pottery, the base tells the story. And what we have here, hopefully you can see this, is made in Japan. And there is a tiny mark, which is kind of hard to see. You can see that kind of, it looks a bit like a box with lines in it. Now, that led me to what this was. This, I have good instincts, I'm happy to say. So, go to the old iPad. And this is what we have. This is Awaji. This is a Japanese lead glaze art pottery. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. For anyone who's Japanese who's watching, sincere apologies if I pronounce it wrong. I'm really doing my best. So Awaji ware is this remarkable art pottery that was only made for about 100 years on a particular island. If we just go over here on Wikipedia, it was traditionally made on Awaji Island in the eastern part of the Seto Inland Sea, western Japan. Some pieces are porcelain, others described as glazed porcelain as ware or pottery. This is not porcelain. You can see that it has nice cream kind of pot, like ceramic or whatever. It's not porcelain, not white. So there's a little bit of a like history or everything. It was essentially first founded in the 1830s by this guy here, which is Minpei Kashu. I'm sure I'm butchering that, and his work is actually in the Met Museum. This is not his, by the way, just to be clear, not his. It's just kind of part of it's kind of in the same kind of vein or whatever, because it's in part of the same place. But anyway, let's go over to Gothenburg. They're generally pretty good for this kind of thing if we actually want to look at the marks. So a little bit of history on the Japanese porcelain art, specifically Awaji, and it also has some examples here. And what we are interested in is this: the impressed Made in Japan mark on Awaji pottery was used between 1922 and the kiln's closings in 1939. Now, this obviously says made in Japan, even if it's rather hard to see. This square mark here, the one that's kind of tricky to make out, this is this square flag mark. And Awaji pottery got its name after the Japanese island in which it was made. Most of the pieces we find are made from the mid-1970s when they began to export their products to the mid to the late 1930s and the last of the kilns closed. The most common mark is the Sanpei flag. This and the Danto Company, Jerry bird mark seems to have begun during the 1880s. So this is Sanpei. That's the specific kiln that made this lovely piece. Now we do have some more information about like the kind of style of stuff they did. Essentially, when they started producing stuff for the export market, they began to be influenced by, you know, international tastes, and they kind of got into kind of Art Deco kind of a thing. And that is where you start seeing these kind of more Art Deco forms. This one in particular, those big straight handles are really, really nice. Just down that knife shape there. That one I particularly like. That's really cool. But this is a kind of a few examples. I've been trying to find another example that looks rather like this, and Google image search, I'm afraid, has failed me, because normally what you see for Awaji pottery, although you'll see, like, if you see this here, you see these lovely irises and the long blades of grass and what have you, but you definitely see the same blue color, but you can see the glaze is running a little bit there. It's not quite as precise as this. And don't knock the camera there. And it is in the same, kind of the same vein, but definitely not quite. And I can't find one that has the same number of colors. Like, they mostly have like blue irises on, or yellow irises like this on top of, like, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. What Awaji was known for was this yellow and green. Okay. Yellow and green in these really beautiful complex drip glazes. There are some examples I was looking for in the yellow that was really, really beautiful. But not so much kind of this kind of stuff, with these kind of like that pink and that kind of dusty rose kind of a color. But they did do cobalt, which is what this is. This is a very, very dark blue cobalt kind of a wear. It seems that this is far more rare. At least certainly uncommon. I cannot find a single example like of Awaji, any Awaji stuff which was a blue. This is just saying a blue iris phase, but it's looking for actual blue irises as opposed to that. So if we knock it off and just look for a blue vase, and it's a little bit better. Like here's one on Etsy, and you know, kind of not great quality, but at least has little spots of these colors, which would be perhaps a little bit better. But yeah, like you can see, they've done a lot of these drip glazes or whatever like that. Not so much this. This is something unusual. This is something different. Anyway, if we're looking around a few other things, I've also been reading Wikipedia, looking at the history and the fact that a few pieces like this are in the actual Met Museum. For reference, here's what the Met Museum has. And you can see that this is incredible art pottery. It's not quite what I've got here. It's I wouldn't actually believe it's the same, you know, it's the same style from the same area, but this is very early, you know, this is 19th century, early 19th century stuff. I have some more information about like the styles and everything here. I'm going to put some links down at the bottom for people to read. And the most important thing really is that what we've got here is that the number of new glazes developed, many which are now used directly in flambe mixes. Not this, by the way, flambe looks different. The two kilns closed in 1939 as the export market dropped off preceding World War II. So effectively that gives us a nice solid bound for when exactly this was made. 1922 to 1939. 1939 is when the Sanpei kiln would have closed. So I'm still thinking this is probably like it's going to be mid to late 30s. I think that this doesn't really look like a lot of the stuff that kind of should, like the more common stuff which would have been early in that 1920s and earlier, when stuff really got into the Western market. Again, this is Vancouver, and literally anything can come through here. So the fact that this showed up in a thrift store for $3 absolutely does not surprise me. I've also been looking here about like items marked for made in Japan, just to confirm this. Yes, the McKinley-Tariff Act, etc., etc. We all know this. After 1915, the words made in are usually added. Beginning in 1921, US customs required country names to be in English, and the word Japan was used instead of Nippon. There we go. 1922, 1939. Anyway, what is it worth? And this is a tough question. The good news is that there is a really solid market in Awaji pottery, especially you can see here, the greens and the yellows are super popular. And the drip glazes are absolutely unreal. They're beautiful, beautiful. Like, they're works of art. Like, come on, show the original listing. that is so beautiful. I cannot even. I can't. It's just, okay. I'll be geeking out about that. Let's just move on. I've seen some astronomical prices for vases like this. Not for a second do I actually believe that this is worth thousands of dollars. That's very unlikely. What I've seen on eBay, though, is that a lot of these very nice little vases, and and the sizes obviously are going to vary or whatever, but they have a really kind of solid, there's a really solid market there. There's about 300, I think, currently selling, and then the last 90 days, something like 40 of them have been sold, and the prices range in up to $100 for a nice one. And considering that this one is so unusual, the decoration is so nicely done, I'd say probably up to $100 for this. This is a nice vase. Not a bad return on investment, I have to say, for something I bought for $4. Anyway, here we go. Hopefully it's going to actually stay in that. Is it going to roll? Are you going to roll? You're going to... Okay. It's great to be back. This is my small joyful thing for the day. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Bye-bye.